Hi guys, welcome back to Joe's RC Corner, and today we're going to talk about what we've gotten done on the Super Chipmunk. So stay tuned and we'll get right back to it. Okay guys, so welcome back. Yeah, we got some work done on the Super Chipmunk, and if you guys have been following my Facebook pages, you may have already seen some of the work that's already been done on it. Unfortunately, I don't have a whole lot of video of the construction of this yet, mostly because I'm just so excited to get it done that I've kind of just been ignoring setting up the camera. But I wanted to go ahead and thank you guys for sticking with me on this still. But we're going to go through a couple of things that we got done on here, so that way you guys can see what we've done and how it's going right now. So as you can see, the fuselage is more or less completed. We still have the control linkages to get all set up in here, and we also need to look at how the tail feathers are going to be mounted in place, so that way we have everything lined up nicely on there. So there are two pieces that will need to be glued in right here. On either side, which kind of give you the distance that you need for the horizontal stabilizer. We also went ahead and we got the control surfaces all hinged. So these are all looking really good now. And these are all been sanded and sealed with water-based polyurethane spray. Kind of use it like a sand and sealer. So that way all the surfaces, everything pretty much on here has now been sealed with the water-based poly. Which will give a nice surface for all the covering to stick to. Now, we've also started some of the detailing up here in the front section, and I'll put some pictures up somewhere over here. But basically, the cockpit detailing is done. I 3D printed a instrument panel and got that painted and mounted. Some of the parts that I did use from the kit, the ABS cockpit kit, is the glare shield here, which I painted to kind of resemble a rubbed down leather with the compass on top. 3D printed a pilot, got him all painted and mounted in the airframe. Kind of looks like Art Scholl, but not perfectly scale, and that's fine. I am thinking about still printing a little dog here. Because if you remember back in the day when he flew, he used to fly with his dog Aileron. So I'm thinking about trying to figure out how I might be able to get a 3D printed dog to sit up in here with him before we get the canopy completed. And then we have the back seat panel, part that came in the kit. That's all painted and mounted back here as well. So moving on, this is also a hatch, by the way. So this is all magnetically mounted in place. So you can pull this out and he'll come out with the canopy. We've got the two magnets here that holds it in place. I am going to put some lightning holes in this area as well because there's no reason for this to be solid. And then we have the big opening here that I can get the battery in. So this is going to work out really nice. I'll have to figure out what the CG is going to be so that I can mount the battery. We're probably going with either a 5-cell or a 6-cell setup with the motor combination that we have on here. Already have the spinner. Do have some alignments still to do, but the spinner is here, and I did a white one, the Great Plains white spinner with the metal back plate. Looks really nice on there. So we'll go ahead and we'll get this out of the way, and we'll take a look at some of the things that we got done on the wing. Okay, so we do have this one wing panel which is almost completed. The bottom half is sheeted, and the next step on the plans is to take this one off, and we'll finish up the second wing panel next. But take that wing panel off, and we'll do some sanding and join the two together, and then they have you do the rest of the sheeting on here. So we're going to continue with that as the book says. Nothing changes on that. Now what we did change though is the landing gear. As you can see, I don't have the landing gear block in the wing right here. I went ahead and we added a landing gear block here because we're doing the retracts. And since we're doing retracts to make it look a little bit more scale and keep in line with how Art Scholl had his landing gear, his retracts. We went ahead and mounted them in this form where they fold back and they kind of stick out the bottom. Now I know he had shroud around the wheel, and maybe I'll do that, maybe I won't. I'm not sure yet. But if I do make a landing gear cover area back here, I might look at doing that, making it 3D printed, and practice some of my designing skills on Fusion 360. So right now we have this in there, and as you can see, when it's out, it gives us plenty of rake forward. So it's almost, the wheel is almost in line with the leading edge of the wing. So that'll actually work out really nice, because that'll give me a nice stability control and have that landing gear just far enough in the front, and when it's folded back, it fits nicely right inside there. Now I did have to notch out the lower wing spar, and before everyone starts jumping up down my throat in regards to oh my God, you cut the spar, hear me out. The landing gear goes through that area when it folds back. So what I did is I cut the spar just the amount that I need to get the landing gear to go in between it, okay? And then I took another piece of hardwood that the spar, similar to what the spar is already made out of, and then I attached those two together. Those are pinned with bamboo skewers, and then they are fiberglassed and then epoxied to the two ribs that are on either side. This is very, very strong. I am not going to worry about this breaking loose or anything. And then once all the shear webbing is also attached between all of these spars and they're glued together, it's going to be like it was never there and was never cut up. So don't worry about it. If anyone wants to see how that's done, I can take some pictures of it a little bit closer, and we'll put them in one of these corners here, or we'll switch to another screen for it. But this is going to be perfectly strong, and I'm not going to have any issues with this wing folding up. So just bear with me, guys. So what we're going to do next is we're going to set this wing that's already done, move that aside, and we're going to go ahead and finish up gluing this wing together, and getting the landing gear mounting block in place, sanded and fitted perfectly in there. And then this will be lined up inside that one as well, same as on the other side. And then we'll start gluing the spar completely down to all the rest of the ribs. Right now it's only epoxy to these two ribs. We're going to go ahead and do the rest of them. And then we're going to get the sheeting on this side so we can pull this one off the board. Get them lined up, figure out what the next step is on the books, and then we'll go from there. Now the other modification that that I'm changing is we're not going to be using the center aileron servo. We're actually going to be putting the servos out in the wing, closer to where the linkage will be straight to the aileron. I'm also not using those plastic formed wing tips. I don't really like using plastic wing tips. The covering doesn't stick very well to them, and then I have to make sure I match the paint. So I'm just not going to use those. What I'm going to do instead is I'm going to make a flat wing tip with slight radius on it out of balsa, which will look great. I'm also not going to be doing the flaps. I changed my mind because 1-3 Yankee, after doing some research, 1-3 Yankee, which is the one we're making this off of, does not have flaps on it. So we're not going to add those, just the retracts. And then we're going to make the aileron a little bit, bring it in by one rib from what they say to use, because I don't want the aileron to go all the way to the center of the wing. I'm going to bring it back to probably about where they wanted you to have it for the flaps, make this solid, make this aileron, and move that servo from here out to the a little bit more centered on the aileron so it doesn't have a lot of twist there anymore. So we'll have that all fixed up, and then we'll be able to get the wings joined. Hopefully this weekend we'll get the wings joined up, and then I can start prepping for where the aileron needs to go, making the plate for it, and everything like that. So that's where we are right now. So stay tuned, guys, and we'll check back with me, and we'll see where we are after this. right, guys, so welcome back from the intro. So I wanted to just do a quick update here on the Super Chipmunk. The Super Chipmunk is moving along pretty good. We finally got the wing mounted, the cowl mounted, and also 3D printed a little dog, because Art Scholl used to fly with his dog, Aileron. So I wanted to go ahead and make a 3D printed version of him and sit him inside that cockpit with him. So let me turn the camera around. We'll take a quick look and see what the current status is of the Super Chipmunk. Okay, guys, so here it is. This is the Super Chipmunk right here. This is the Carl Goldberg version. As you can see, we've got it framed up here, and we got it mocked up to where it's at right now. So we have the cowl has been joined in fiberglass in the center section. We do have the... I went ahead and filled in the center section here where the two pieces met up, and it's looking pretty good. We're running electric, so I don't have to cut any additional holes in the cowl, which is great. Now I will need to go ahead and put a opening down the bottom down here to let the air out, so as to cool the ESC and the motor up here in the front. We do have the retracts mounted right down in here, and they fold back up inside the wing. I'll show you from the top. There we go. So you got the holes in here. I'm going to go ahead and sheet this area, and then I still have to put in all my rib cap strips here to join that whole section together. But yeah, it's looking pretty good there. Happy with that. We do have the retract mounted underneath here, and that just folds straight back. So that looks pretty nice. We decided not to go with the flaps here on this because the 1-3 Yankee, which is what I'm modeling this off after, does not have flaps. And I think it had to do with the mechanics and everything that he had to put in for the retracts, so they did not have flaps on that wing. But I did leave the aileron length. It's roughly about the same length as it was. I'm going to square off the wing tips, but it is going to still extend past the aileron here. That's not very scale, but I think that's going to look good. Now, looking back on the tail here, we did join the elevator halves with a carbon fiber tube. I have not gotten the setup here for the tail wheel, but that's going to go right up in here with a torque rod coming down into the tiller on the tail wheel system. Not much more to look at back here, but everything works pretty good. We have plenty of motion on all control surfaces, including the elevator, and they should not interfere with each other, but if so, I might need to go ahead and do some trimming over here. Not sure yet. We'll take a look at it and see how that all works when we get everything permanently mounted. But this is not mounted this isn't permanently mounted yet, so we'll worry about that when we get to that stage. Still got to run all my control horns, or my control linkage, push rods, and so on in here. I already know how I'm going to do it. I just need to get in there and start mounting everything. Of course, the elevator exit hole and the rudder exit hole is going to be somewhere up here. We got to do some final sanding and some filling up on this. It's looking pretty good, though. It's getting close. A little bit of sanding, but not too much left. But aileron servos are going to be mounted in the wing right about here. So that'll be looking good. And, of course, this is the hatch. So all of this will come off so I can get access to the battery inside there. So other than that, there she is. She's looking really good. We can turn on another light here so you can see a little better. There she is. But, yeah, she's starting to look like an airplane and starting to look like a chipmunk. So I hope you guys enjoy the video. And stay tuned, guys. Keep an eye on the video, and see you soon. Thanks. All right, guys. So really quick, just want to get started here. So we're going to go ahead and hinge the tail feathers here on the Super Chipmunk. I use 30-minute epoxy to do so, and mostly because I'm using these style hinges right here. Not sure if it's going to focus on them, but these are, I believe these are the Dubro, Dubro pinned hinges. And what I do is I sand them first to get a little bit of a grip, and they already have holes in them as well.
But then I take some Vaseline and I put them, put the Vaseline on the hinge point there. Now this one has a little bit too much. I'll clean that up here with a paper towel. But once we get those on, that will keep the epoxy from gluing the pins and allow the surfaces still to move. The other thing that we have to epoxy in place on the rudder is the tail wheel torque tube or torque rod here. So that I'm going to rough that up with a little bit of sandpaper, and we'll put some epoxy on the end of it when we're doing the hinges. We'll slide it in place, and it'll epoxy itself into the hardwood that's inside the rudder itself. So we're going to go ahead and do that first. So I got everything is all laid out here. I got all my hinges laid out, and they all have their Vaseline on them to keep them from getting stuck. And then we're going to go ahead and start adding it on here. So we're going to go ahead and move the camera just a little bit here. All right, so now that you can see that I have the tail feathers off, we're going to start off with the elevator first, and then we'll work our way up to the rudder, because the elevator is going to have to go in this way and then into place. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to take some masking tape and I'm going to pull it nice and tight on the tips to make sure that the tips line up out here. So we're going to go ahead and get that done next. So I have my masking tape here, and we're going to go ahead and mix up some 30-minute epoxy. So I want to have plenty of time to work here. And this is, I'm going to go ahead and open up my new ones. So the epoxy of choice today is BSI Slow Cure, 30 minutes. These are brand new containers. We'll go ahead and break those open. Okay, now that we have our 30-minute epoxy here, we're going to go ahead and mix that up in equal parts. Now I took a popsicle stick and I broke it in half because for the job we're doing, we don't need a big popsicle stick. So we're going to go ahead and mix this up. And we'll sit down here to do this. So how I like to do this is I like to do one side, glue it into the tail feather first, and then add the epoxy to those pieces, and then add the elevator after. So we'll go ahead and start with that. Now some people also use the 3-in-1 oil, which should work as well to lubricate and protect the hinges from getting glue in them. And that should work just fine. It just needs to be an oil-based, petroleum-based product to keep the epoxy from sticking to it. So it's not critical on whether you use the polyurethane or the what oil you use. Now I've also seen Gorilla Glue, the white Gorilla Glue, to glue the hinges in, and that should work as well. Takes a little bit longer for it to cure, but should do the same trick. Just wipe off any excess epoxy. Okay guys, so sorry about that. So we got the tail feathers are all set up now in the back. We're going to go over a little bit more when in a few minutes how those are all set up. But we also got that blue stripe down the center. Got the plastic ABS pieces gone ahead and painted, and we put in the blue. The blue is slightly darker than the covering blue, but it's on the bottom of the airplane, and I'm not really that concerned about it. But we got that stripe on. Next steps are going to be getting all the servos and everything lined up in the wing, and getting the retracts wired up and all the wires fed back into the fuselage there. The motor is mounted. Right now, this is the motor we're running on it. I don't know if it's going to be enough. I think it is. It's a 4250. It's a 500 kV. It's an aero drive from Turnigy. I don't know if they make this motor anymore, but my dad had it, and we're going to try to run it on a 5-cell. I know some people have said that they can run that on a 6-cell, but we're going to try a 5-cell first, see how that works out,
see if it's enough power. If not, then we'll go up to a 6-cell, maybe change out props, something like that. The cowl is also completed here. So you can see the cowl has also been got the decal on. We have the pinstriping, and we got the paint on it as well. And we have clear coated this. And if you guys know what I use for clear coat, it's a 2-part clear coat. It has a puncture system on the bottom of it, and it puts the catalyst into the paint, and then you can spray that on, and it produces an unbelievably shiny, very nice clear coat, and it works on fueled airplanes as well. But it seals in the decals really well, and along with the pinstriping, that's also been sealed. So we're going to let that cure. Maybe tomorrow we'll be able to mount the cowl onto the plane, but we do have the mounting points already done. That part is completed, but we're just giving it a little bit of time to let that clear coat really harden up, and then what we'll be able to do is tomorrow get that mounted onto the airframe, and maybe check out all the power systems on it on the plane. But yeah, as you can see, we're getting pretty close. Just have to finish up the wiring and get the hinges glued in on the ailerons. Those are already glued back there, and they're already set up. So we'll be right back, and we'll see how much more we have to do. All right, guys, thanks. Okay, guys, so welcome back, and as you've seen on all the work that we've been doing, the Super Chipmunk is pretty much done. If you've been following my Facebook page, then you probably already are aware of that. But here on the YouTube channel, I want to just do a quick overview of the aircraft now that it is completed and ready for maiden. Hopefully we can get out there and get the maiden done fairly soon. However, I did notice that there are some parts that I'm going to have to replace. Most of it electronic, that it was equipment that I had, and I wanted to go ahead and try to reuse it if I could. Unfortunately, I was not able to use the motor that I wanted to use in there. Of course, I already made the cowl fit the motor that I had. So we had to do some trimming on the cowl to make it fit. I hate doing that after paint, but it is what it is. You don't really notice it too much, so I'm not that concerned about it. Plus, it is a sport model, not a scale depiction of Art Scholl's aircraft. So with that being said, I'm going to go ahead and turn the camera around, and we'll go through some of the parts of the aircraft. If you have any questions or comments, go ahead and leave those below, and I'll see if I can answer them as you put them in. But yeah, so really quick, some people noticed that on the wingtips, I went with a flat wingtip opposed to doing the plastic round wingtips. I didn't really feel that those were needed on there, so I used a piece of hard 1/4-inch balsa and made flat wingtips instead. Those came out really nice. I like them. And I think it's going to add a really nice appearance to the aircraft and a little bit different. So that was one thing that we did. The other modifications that I've completed on the aircraft during the build was I lowered the amount of dihedral in the wing, probably about a 1/2 inch or so at the recommended placement of the jig. That way I could get the wing a little bit less dihedral in it. Maybe it'll make it do a little bit crazier aerobatics. I'm not sure. We'll see how it flies. I'm sure it'll be just fine. It still has some dihedral in it, so I think she'll still fly beautifully either way. So if you build yours and you build it with the stock, I'm sure it'll fly just as good. So please don't go nuts on the why'd you do that, and does it make a difference? I'm not sure yet. We'll find out when we take it out to the field and get it in the air. So the next things that I just want to touch on is the elevator
they have a wire, a steel rod wire type connector that connects the two elevators and makes them one. I don't like using those. I've had bad luck with them, starting to loosen up over time, and then I don't get even elevator. So what I decided to do is I had some carbon fiber shaft, hollow shaft, that I sanded, cut, and used that as my joiner. I then took a 16th inch drill bit and drilled through after it was glued in place. And then I added some barbecue skewers through those to give some torsion strength to the joint there. And then I fiberglassed it, filled it, sanded it, and I think it came out really nice, really strong joint back there. And I don't believe that should ever break. So that'll be fine. Other things that we've modified, of course, we went electric on this aircraft. The reason for that is I wanted to keep a nice clean look on the airplane. I did want to use a gas engine, however, the engine that I had was going to be a little bit too small and would not have given me the performance that I was really wanting to get. So I went electric, and we did some modifications to the top half where the canopy goes to create a nice hatch that's not a big gash in the fuselage. Now, if any of you have built this aircraft before, it is a box construction. The fuselage bottom half is all the structure. The top half of that box is all cosmetic. So by making the hatch right at that level there, it allowed me to create a one-piece hatch with the canopy without sacrificing any of the structural integrity of the airframe itself. So that's why I went with that. We did add the retracts, as we mentioned in the past. I bought the Hobby King retracts. They're designed for the Hawker Hurricane, but they're nice with aluminum landing gear with oleo struts, and they also allow the gear leg to be rotated to allow it to go up into the wing in a scale manner similar to the way Art Scholl had it. So as you can see, this is the aluminum strut here. And this aluminum strut is very scale-like, and it has the oleo scissor strut in the back, and it allows us shock absorbent. Really nice shock absorbent on there. And the retract will actually go back and sit in this well right here, which it's more of a scale well. If you remember, the Chipmunks don't have retracts. Art Scholl went and modified the aircraft to allow for retracts in his aircraft. So the only way he was able to really put retracts in the wing without sacrificing the strength of the spar was by allowing the retract to go up into the wing, and then he had a shroud back here to kind of hide the wheel when it was up. I'm not going to do that. It's a little bit more work than is really needed for a sport scale. So this will work just fine. The servos we have underneath here are the Corona DS 339, and they're high voltage servos. I have ball links on the servo side. Because of the angles that we have to get to, I needed to lower the amount of throw in the surface and bring the push rod as close into the pivot point as possible to create really strong torque. However, it does reduce the throw, which is fine. So to compensate, I went ahead and we moved the servo. It's in the second hole of the servo arm, and then it's on the farthest hole in the control horn. That'll give me the least amount of throw, but very, very high torque. And that way I don't have to modify anything in the radio to allow for to lessen the throw. And that way I can maintain resolution of my servos without sacrificing anything. But I can reduce my throw mechanically, and it allows me to maintain all of the resolution of that servo. So remember that, guys, when you're putting together airplanes. Your radio programming is not for your main adjustments. It is for your secondary adjustments. You try to set everything mechanically as close to what you need, and then you go into your servo, into your radio, and you do your fine tuning from that point. You want your mechanical setup to be the best possible. That way you use the least amount of computerization in your radio. One of the other things that's going to help you out with is if you ever switch out radios, you don't have to go nuts trying to get everything set right. Most of your servos are going to be mechanically set up, so you don't have to go crazy in your radio programming to get that new radio set up on your old models. So let's go ahead and move over to where we set up the elevator section. Okay, so as you can see, we have on the elevator section here. So here we are on the back and the tail section here. Here's that carbon fiber rod that I'm telling you, that I told you about back here. Like I said, that carbon fiber rod is connected to the two elevators, and it creates a nice strong bond to these two surfaces. They don't move. They're really strong. They don't move. They only move together. You can't make them twist in any way, shape, or form. Now, we also mentioned before, this is the retract version of Art Scholl's Chipmunk. So his end number for that aircraft was 13 Yankee. So I went ahead and made up some new decals. I know it's not the correct font, but it was close enough, again, for sport scale. I also added the Carl Goldberg sticker up here on the top, because why not? So everything else went together really well. The stickers were a little yellow due to age. However, I think it adds a little bit of character, makes the aircraft look like it was built back when it was brand new. So I'm really happy with how those came out. I like them. I did not do flaps on this one, even though I did mention that I was going to. I decided against doing flaps because I didn't feel that it needed the complexity. And since I already added the weight of the retracts, it didn't need it. The other thing I also researched is I found out that Art Scholl's 13 Yankee did not have flaps. But let's take a look and see how I did the hatch. Okay, so now we're looking at the aircraft, and like I said, I want to show you this part right over here. See, this is where the carbon fiber rod is. I painted it red so it was less visible, and I think it blended in really nicely. I did have to make some modifications back here to this to the part between the elevators, but I think that came out really nice, and it's, like I said, it's really strong. No torsion problems whatsoever. The 13 Yankee, like I mentioned, and we added the Carl Goldberg sticker up there. This was a pain in the butt to cover, guys. Just want to let you guys know it probably looks a lot better on camera than it does in person. However, I'm still pretty proud of how this came out. It looks pretty good. Could have been better, but this is exactly the reason why I like to do surfaces off the aircraft and then glue them on separately. But I did my best, and I got a lot of it in there, and you really got to look at airflow when you're adding your covering. You don't want any surfaces to be able to be lifted up in the wind. So just pay attention to that when you're doing covering, guys, and make sure it's heated down really good before you start shrinking. Otherwise, you might end up with something like this. When you get close enough, you might be able to see that little bit of melting right there where it pulled apart. I could have gone back and done that over again, but you know, again, sport scale model, from afar, you can't see it. So this all came out really good. I'm really happy with this. As I said, the decals were a little bit yellowing. I'm not sure if it'll be picked up in the camera or not, but a little bit of yellowing in the clear sections. But again, sport scale, not really that big of an issue.
Now moving on into the cockpit area, like we said, like I've mentioned many times, I 3D printed myself a pilot, gave him a microphone and everything. And then we also have little babe, the puppy dog Aileron, his co-pilot in the plane, looking out the window as we're flying by. And I'll bring the camera around to the other side so you can kind of see it. Yeah, let's see, there he is right there. There's Aileron sitting in there looking out the window. And of course we do have the cockpit in there. Let me come to this side. You might be able to see a little better. There we go. We got a 3D printed cockpit area. I use some of the ABS parts as well. So for instance, the rear, the seat back is the part that comes with the kit. And up here, the leather dash panel up on top with the compass. That came with the kit. But everything else 3D printed there. Now, I did notice in one of the pictures that he did have this non-slip. So I went ahead and added a piece of black matte vinyl, and it's on both sides. Because he had that non-slip vinyl on both sides of it to climb into the cockpit. I'm still going to be working on getting the antenna. I haven't made one yet for up here. And I might actually do his VOR antennas back here as well, just for fun. Why not? The wing covering came out the best, in my opinion. That was the best part of this whole build in the covering. This came out gorgeous. No peeling up, perfectly spaced, 2 inches, and it came out really nice. I'm really happy with that. Moving around over to the front. Do have a permafrost beard sticker on here. I know that's not scale, but you know what? My friend here up in Alaska, in Fairbanks, makes some great products. Definitely check him out if you have a beard, or even if you don't. He sells handmade soaps and other things. So definitely check him out, guys. Permafrostbeard.com, and help support a local business up there in Fairbanks. All right, so moving on back over here. So we got the decals on here for the mechanic and the Art Scholl as the pilot. We'll take the canopy off here. This is the hatch. As you can see, just slides right out. There we go. Set that off to the side. So now, as you can see here, this is this was originally the floor of the cockpit. It is now a place for my magnets. I also added tons of lightning holes. It doesn't really reduce that much weight, but why not? And where you can save some weight, go ahead and save it, since it's mostly plywood. Right on the other side here is my receiver. I have the 2 servos back here as normal underneath this panel. And down in here, we have the battery bay. We have the Velcro on the bottom, and then a strap here. And that worked out really well. Now I got a new ESC coming. That's one of the things that's that I'm not going to be able to reuse that I had. And also the motor that my dad had that I was going to be using ended up having a bit of a problem and broke the threaded shaft for the prop. They used a really thin prop shaft on that motor, so I had to make when I was tightening it down, it broke. It is what it is. Yeah, so we got a new motor in there. Now, this is an old motor that actually had some issues, so I'm not going to be flying it with this motor. I'm going to be replacing it. Right now, it's going to be replaced with the same motor because I'll be able to run this on a 4-cell pack system, which is really great. This 4-cell, this motor, ESC, 60 amp ESC, and 4-cell 5,000 milliamp battery pack should give me a lot of flight time on this airplane. It's supposed to put out somewhere between 6 to 8 pounds of thrust on that power system with a 13 to 14 inch prop. Right now I got the 13 inch. I might go to a 14. I'm not sure yet. I do have a wood prop coming. I'm not really a fan of these APC props. They're really flexible on the tips. Sometimes you end up getting a little bit of cavitation at the prop tips. I don't really like that, so we're going to probably replace that. But the motor, it's a G-Force from ValueHobby.com. It's the G32,
And with a 4-cell setup, I believe that this thing's going to haul this around like it's nothing. So we'll work on that. We'll get some testing on it. It was only pulling about 55 to 60 amps. So, and that was with a 14-inch prop. So with the 13-inch prop and a new motor that's not burned up, we'll probably do a lot better. So we've got that coming in, and once that comes in, I'll go ahead and I'll get that posted on there. Now you'll see that the cowl here is very shiny. I just used the Rust-Oleum red paint and the Rust-Oleum white, put in a red pinstripe of vinyl pinstripe that I had. Then I added the stickers, and then I ended up using that 2K clear. Let me grab it here. This is the clear coat that I like to use on it. I use this a lot on gas airplanes. This is the first time using it on electric. I'm not sure if it would be worth it, but I went ahead and used it since I had some. But it's the 2K Spray Max 2K, and it's a clear, but it's a 2-part epoxy paint. So it's fuel proof, guys. So if you want to cover up, do a cowl on a gas powered or nitro powered airplane, this is what you want to use. This will add a nice shiny clear coat on top of your cowl and keep that baby looking nice, okay? So make sure you check this product out. It comes with a little stopper. You push it into the bottom of it. It mixes the 2 parts. You shake it for 5 minutes and you spray it on. And that's the result, guys. And that's no buffing, guys. That's right off the can with a day of curing. All right. And once you puncture that can, though, it's only good, I believe, for 48 hours. Once to that 48 hours, it pretty much is done. So don't use it unless you have some stuff to use it with. It isn't cheap, so like I said, don't crack it open and then let it sit for months at a time, because that'll be done. Yeah, here it is. Once activated, the stuff's good for 48 hours. To be used within 36 months of the manufacturing date. But yeah, 48 hours and this stuff is no good no more. So don't pop it unless you need it. But man, does it give you a nice shiny sheen. So definitely, guys, check it out. If you're building something with gas or nitro and you want to protect it, go ahead and do that. Electric wasn't that big of a deal, but I had it and I know it produces great results. So there you go, guys. All right, so anyway, so there she is. That's all I have for today. I really do appreciate you guys taking a look at my video. I'm going to put some time lapse here at the end of the video of some of the build parts that I did not get to put into videos for you guys. So I do apologize. This build just went so fast and I was so excited and so looking forward to getting it done that I just had to keep going and not stop to set up cameras. So thanks, guys. I appreciate it. And we'll see you on the next build.